Hey guys, how you doing? Long time. Sorry if it's kind of dark in here. I'm in my truck. There's the inside lights. Long time. Sorry for the absence. A lot going on. A lot of great flying stuff has been going on. Haven't really been too into the whole recording because I've just kind of been mission oriented and let's see, just a quick recap. I did a video that I got my CFI and then I got my CFII a couple weeks later. And we just sold the airplane to a lucky new buyer from Minnesota. And he's going to, it's his first airplane. It was my first plane and his first plane. And we're gonna figure out how to get that out to him, whether, you know, I'm part of the delivery operation or he comes and picks it up, not sure yet. But what I need your help on is I need help finding the replacement for 67 Yankee. And you might ask the reasons why, or what are the reasons why we sold the plane, and it's because the 182, I can personally attest to the reputation that it is amazing at nothing. It's pretty good at almost everything, but it's just amazing at nothing. And one of the things that I wanted it to be amazing at, or I need to be amazing in an airplane, is I need some more speed, some more utility, some more range. I don't need any more useful load because the useful load on that thing is like a truck. But I need a really fast airplane in order to get to fulfill the mission and to get the things accomplished that I want to get accomplished. We have more and more clients that are outside of driving distance and really kind of inside the airline distance. There's kind of that awkward space that exists between, you know, where you're based and where you're going, where the airlines, you can't really airline to them with much efficiency. For instance, up here in central New Hampshire, New York is kind of in that awkward place where it takes 5 hours to drive there. It's a little too much. And you can't airline there because, you know, you're going to drive an hour to, say, Manchester Boston Regional Airport, drive an hour by car to get there. And once you get there, you're waiting for an hour going through security to get on a 20-minute flight to get to JFK or LaGuardia or Newark or whatever. And then you got to deplane, and then you got to get your bags if you get bags. And then, you know, the whole story. So that awkward space is perfect for general aviation. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to take a 182 there, and it takes 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours to get there, when if I were in a 200 knot airplane, I could be there in, you know, a half an hour, 45, realistically an hour, let's say. You know, I live 10 minutes from the airport, drive up to the airport, get the airplane pre-flighted, you're in the air and you're on the ground within an hour, hour and a half. At the absolute most, you're where you want to be. I have friends all over, you know, through the Midwest and up and down the Eastern Seaboard. And recently, a friend of mine from North Carolina said, "Hey, come down in your plane and let's hang out for the weekend or whatever." And we have some other business dealings that we're working on together. And I'm like, dude, I can't do that. It just doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna, you know, make an entire day trip out of flying from central New Hampshire to North Carolina rather. And just before I did this video here, I was on the phone with a client of mine who has a location in Greenville, South Carolina, and he's a GA enthusiast and loves he uses general aviation to go to some of his other locations in New York and Western Massachusetts and such. And he's like, dude, we need to go and do a trip to South Carolina in your plane. And I'm like, that's not happening, man. And I said, for two reasons. Number one, it's too far for a 182 in practical terms. And I don't have a 182 anymore. We started talking about what I'm looking for. So I'm driving right now. So if I'm not responding to any of the messages that are coming through, I apologize. But so what am I looking for? Well, I want to be around 200 knots, and I see the Bonanza recommendation just came. I love Bonanzas. I just love them, and it's just a little too. I know it sounds spoiled, but it's maybe a little too slow for for what I'm looking for. That's a great plane for, I've long considered Bonanzas actually, but it's, you know, what, 175 or so. I could be off on my numbers a little bit here, but you know, that's good if you got to carry 6 people at 175. But you know, like many people who fly GA, they rarely find themselves filling up the seats. They'd rather fill the fuel tanks and you know, go with 1 or maybe 2 other people. So a 3 out of 4 load, and if it were 3 for me, 3 out of 6 is just, I don't want to pay for empty seats at the expense of speed. So one of the things that I'm really kind of focusing on is around 200. That could mean 189 or 195 or 205, but really over 200 is highly unlikely, I'm finding. So that kind of puts me in a box. People talk about SR-22s, and it's a great platform, and you know, some people hate the SR-22, obviously. In the old timers, like my grandfather used to say, he was a big boater and wooden boat guy, and he said if God intended for there to be fiberglass boats, he would have planted fiberglass trees. And you know, I'm not that dogmatic about airplane construction. In fact, I in some ways would almost prefer a composite airplane. But I'm looking at Moonies, I'm looking at Mooney Ovations, and I'm looking at Columbia, Cessna TTX, that kind of airplane. And you know, as you guys know, 67 Yankee was my first airplane, and it was quite a learning experience. And in some ways it was a good experience, in other ways it was a bad experience. But at the end of the day, I learned so much about owning and running my own airplane that I feel like I'm ready to move up to that next level and start using the plane for what it's intended for, or for what my mission intends it for. So I need some help from you guys. If any of you have any tips or leads on middle 2000s Moonies, Ovation 2 or 3, and Columbia 350. I do not want a turbocharged airplane. I don't have any real interest at this point in the high altitude stuff and all the extra maintenance and drama that goes along with turbochargers. Don't really need it. I need a plane that'll perform in the 8 to 12,000 altitudes very, very optimally. And so that's the Mooney Ovation, normally aspirated, the Columbia, and they both have IO 550s in them. And I don't really care so much in one direction or the other about G1000, but in those year ranges, you're looking at pretty much G1000. I really am interested in FIKI, flight into known ice, and that's important to me, not because I want to go diving into the ice and flying around and you know, in free. More have that extra, you know, buffer of safety to be able to come in on an approach, come back home. You know the point. You get the point. I don't need to belabor that point. What else is important? Low time, very, very important. You know, the Moonies and the those IO 550s, I think, in the Columbia 350 as well, is rated at 2,000 hour TBO. So that anything with under 1,000 hours, but preferably 300 to 500 hours would be ideal. Air conditioning, I don't care about. Couldn't care less. A lot of people are really blasting off, pardon the pun, blasting off the advantages of having air conditioning. I don't care. I fly here in New Hampshire in the dog days of summer when it's 100 degrees, and yeah, you're sweating bullets for 20 minutes until you get to 8,000, 10,000 feet. Even on a hot day, it doesn't matter. You cool off quickly. So don't care about that. Built-in oxygen would be cool, but don't care so much about that. You know, I could use a portable oxygen system. What else? Well, okay, here's one for you. WAS has always been a non-negotiable. It's like, duh, it's got to be WAS. Like, who would buy an airplane that's not WAS? But in my research, I'm finding that anything in the 2004 to 2007 range is by default like an early generation, first generation G1000. And the problem is that they came out before WAS was widely available for general aviation, and retrofitting them with WAS is all but impossible. And so that is, gosh, I don't know what to do here. But I guess I'm trying to look at this realistically. I love the WAS because I love the idea of being able to get down low in a real pinch. But in reality, I am not a guy who dives into marginal and really sketchy weather conditions in the first place. As I've always said, I never need to fly, ever, never. So I don't know if WAS, I don't know, you got to help me with this one. Guys with more experience than me, I would appreciate some advice on this. I do kind of have a hard time up here accepting that I just sold a 56-year-old airplane that obviously I did a lot of upgrades to, and it was WAS'd out to the max. ADSB in and out, dual WAS navigators, the whole G5, dual G5 setup. And it was just like a really great IFR platform. But I just kind of a hard time in my mind digesting the idea of buying a much, much, much newer and more expensive airplane and taking such a step backwards. So I would love some feedback from you guys on that. I guess I kind of need to be convinced one way or the other. And the location of the airplane, I don't really care. It'd be kind of a fun adventure to pick it up in Oregon or California or Florida or whatever. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Damage history, if there is any damage history, it has to be minimal, if barely anything at all. I'm talking like really, really tiny, like whatever, I don't know. I really would prefer no gear up landings and prop strikes and all that drama that goes with that, and I just don't want to have to deal with the unknown of a prop strike and how well did they really inspect the engine on teardown and blah, 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 and was it really protected, or excuse me, repaired correctly, and will the plane really fly straight and true after the repairs? I don't want to deal with that stuff. I don't want a project. The other idea that I have is, some of these earlier G1000s that are reputed to not be upgradable to WAS. I know there's some, like, again, you guys who know this stuff better than I do, you can help me with this, but some of these airplanes, I understand, are able to be upgraded. And I'm wondering if, if I could find one at the right price that would justify the WAS upgrade. Does that make sense? So, I don't know. I'm wide open to discussion here. But I thought it would be a good idea. I'm on a reasonably long drive right now to pick up my son. My son that was in the thumbnail posing at the tail end of 6-7 Yankee. Down picking him up from school, and I'm thinking, well, let's just do a quick video and talk about what's going on. So it's a little longer than I expected the video to be, and sorry for the ramble. I wish I were flying making this video, but that's the other thing. I just don't know how I could not own an airplane. It feels so awkward. Like, the weather's been pretty nice the past few days outside, and my house is right, in the departure end of the runway, probably like 5 miles off, but all we hear is planes buzzing from time to time, and I look up, I'm like, oh, I think I'll go, I can't go flying, and that stinks. So help me find a plane. If you have any tips or leads, or if you want to help me this decision, I'd appreciate it. If you know of any planes, email me at flyjfy@gmail.com. That's FLY, J like Juliet, F like Foxtrot, Y like Yankee at Gmail. Fly Juliet Fox Yankee. And let me know what you come up with. And maybe you know someone. I mean, believe me, I've already looked at all of them on controller. I've seen all 35 Moonies Ovations, M20Rs on controller. I've seen them all on a trade-a-plane. I really would prefer to get something off market, of a friend who has thought about selling their plane, and the only way to do that is to network with people who know people. So help me, please, and then we can get on to making some videos. And I'm going to start really doing some more instructional videos and some of the cool things that I've learned about flying. I'd like to just share some of those things, and some things I haven't seen other people talking about, and I don't want to just regurgitate the same stuff on, you know, how to do steep turns and all that stuff, but I kind of want to take more of a you know, a slightly different approach to this, and we'll just see how it goes. Anyways, I'm done. Have a great one, and hopefully we'll do another video before Christmas. That would be my goal. Hopefully we do a video about my new airplane that you guys are going to help me, and we'll go from there, and talk to you soon.